Ever get that feeling, that one where you're staring out at the ocean and it feels like it's staring right back? Well, today's deep dive takes us to a place where that feeling gets really real. We're talking about the Bermuda Triangle.
And hold on to your hats, folks, because we're not just here to swap spooky stories. We are going deep, dissecting decades of mystery surrounding this infamous patch of the Atlantic.
We've got a stack of excerpts, and I mean a stack. First-hand accounts, wild theories, even folks who say, nope, it's all a load of you-know-what. But the goal here is by the end of this deep dive, you'll be a walking, talking Bermuda Triangle encyclopedia.
That's right. Think of this as your crash course in critical thinking, Bermuda Triangle style. We're giving you the knowledge, not just to understand the what, but the why. Why this place, why all the stories, why it still fascinates us.
All right, so picture this. You got a triangle, right? Roughly drawn between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. That right there, that's our mysterious celebrity guest, the Bermuda Triangle. Infamous, notorious even, for swallowing ships and planes whole, leaving barely a trace.
And we're not talking about just any vessels here. I mean, we're talking about the big leagues, like the USS Cyclops. This massive, and I mean massive, naval ship vanished in 1918, over 300 souls on board. Just poof, gone.
Gone, just like that. And then there's Flight 19, count 'em five Navy bombers just up and disappear during a routine training mission back in 1945. And get this, the rescue plane, the one they sent out to find them, yeah, that vanished too.
And as if that wasn't enough, you've got the Carol A. Deering, this schooner found totally deserted, just run aground back in 1921. Stuff like this, these eerie incidents, they're what give the Bermuda Triangle its spooky rep.
Okay, but this whole triangle thing, it's not like ancient sailors were drawing this on their maps, were they? When did this whole thing, this sense of mystery, when did it really take hold?
The real brewing of this mystery started in the mid-20th century. A journalist, Edward Van Winkle Jones, wrote a piece for the Miami Herald back in 1950. He was one of the first to hint that maybe, just maybe, something strange was happening in that area.
So he kind of planted the seed, but who was it that turned it into, like, a full-blown phenomenon?
Well, a fellow by the name of George X. Sand really got the ball rolling. In 1952, he wrote an article, catchy title, Sea Mystery at Our Back Door, published in Fate magazine. And this is where the triangle as we know it, this specific location, the name, the shape, this is where it all really came together.
It's like someone took a mystery and slapped a brand name on it. But every good story needs its characters, right? So who are the storytellers, the ones who really brought this whole Bermuda Triangle thing to life?
Well, you got to give credit to authors like Vincent Gaddis and Charles Berlitz. Gaddis wrote Invisible Horizons in 1965, and then Berlitz, he really hit the bestseller list with the Bermuda Triangle back in 1974. These guys, they dove headfirst into those disappearances, adding their own twists and turns along the way.
Master storytellers, playing on our fascination with the unknown. But I'm guessing not everyone was buying into these tall tales.
You're right, not everyone was sold. And that's where our resident skeptic enters the scene, a researcher by the name of Larry Kusha. Now, Kusha, he publishes The Bermuda Triangle Mystery, solved in 1975, and in it, he meticulously debunks many of those popular stories.
Talk about bursting someone's paranormal bubble. What exactly did Kusha find that made him so skeptical?
Well, to start with, he discovered a lot of these incidents, the ones blamed on the triangle, they actually happened outside of its very loosely defined borders. Imagine blaming a bank robbery in New York on a gang in Chicago. It just doesn't add up.
A case of mistaken identity, but on an oceanic scale.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop there. Kusha found some stories. They were embellished, exaggerated, jazzed up for dramatic effect. And others, well, they completely ignored the obvious.
Like the weather.
The weather, exactly.
Mm.
I mean, it does tend to get a tad stormy out at sea. For example, remember Donald Crowhurst?
Vaguely remind me.
He was a yachtsman who went missing during this big solo round-the-world race. Berlitz, in his book, he presented Crowhurst's disappearance as another win for the mysterious forces of the triangle.
Ah, right. But Kusha, he wasn't convinced.
Not one bit. He dug up evidence that Crowhurst's boat had some major problems, and there were signs, sadly, pointing to a possible suicide at sea. A tragedy, absolutely, but not the work of some mysterious force.
A good reminder that sometimes the simplest answer, even if it's not as exciting, is the right one. But I have to ask, did anyone else push back on the Bermuda Triangle hype?
Oh, absolutely. Even big institutions like Lloyd's of London, the famous insurance market, they had something to say about it.
Wait, really? What did the insurance folks have to say about ships sailing through a supposed vortex of doom?
Well, they basically said, hold on, not so fast. Lloyd's of London, They officially declared that they don't see the Bermuda Triangle as any riskier than other well-traveled shipping routes. In fact, they don't charge higher rates for ships passing through there.
So much for those vanishing premiums. Okay, that's insurance, but what about the U.S. Coast Guard? They've got to have some strong opinions on this whole thing, right?
Oh, they do. The Coast Guard, they've consistently maintained that the Bermuda Triangle doesn't pose any statistically unusual threat to ships or aircraft. They've even gone as far as to debunk specific incidents, ones that people previously blamed on the triangle.
Okay, so we've got skeptics, insurance companies, even the Coast Guard saying, pump the brakes, folks. It's starting to sound like the Bermuda Triangle's rep as this, like, maritime monster might be more myth than reality. But if that's the case, what is going on? Could there be other explanations for these disappearances? Something a bit more, shall we say, grounded in reality?
Absolutely. We'll
Hmm.
dive into some of those more plausible explanations, everything from powerful natural phenomena to the very real factor of human error. But first, a quick break. Don't go too far. We've got a lot more to unpack.
All right, so we've done some myth busting, but I gotta know, what could explain those disappearances everyone blames on the Bermuda Triangle?
Well, let's start with the obvious culprit, the ocean itself. It's vast, it's powerful, and let's be honest, we humans tend to underestimate it. Take the Gulf Stream, for instance.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but always figured it was better known for warm beaches, not, making things disappear.
It does bring those warm currents up the coast, you're right,
Yeah.
but it's also a force of nature. Think of it like a massive river within the ocean, and it's flowing right through the Bermuda Triangle. This current can hit speeds of up to 6 miles per hour. A small boat, say it has engine trouble, drifts into that. You're talking about being swept miles off course in no time.
Okay, that makes sense for smaller vessels, but what about the big stuff? Could the Gulf Stream really take down a cargo ship or a plane for that matter?
For something that large, it's highly unlikely the Gulf Stream alone could do it. But there's something else we need to consider here, and that's the Bermuda Triangle's, shall we say, volatile personality.
Volatile, you mean like moody teenager volatile?
Laughs. In a way, yes. I'm talking about the weather patterns in that area. They're notoriously unpredictable. Hurricanes, rogue waves, sudden violent storms. They're all common occurrences in the Bermuda Triangle.
So Mother Nature doesn't mess around, huh?
Not one bit, especially out at sea. Think back to the Pride of Baltimore. That was a beautiful sailing ship lost in 1986. It was hit by what's called a microburst, basically a sudden, powerful downdraft. We're talking winds over 100 miles per hour. The ship capsized and sank incredibly fast.
A stark reminder that even the most experienced sailors are no match for the raw power of nature. But what about those stories about compasses going haywire in the triangle? Is there any truth to that?
Ah, yes, the compass variations. It's true that compasses can act a bit strange in that part of the world, but it's not because of some mysterious force field. It all comes down to the Earth's magnetic field and its quirks.
So more of a geography lesson than a supernatural phenomenon.
Exactly. See, magnetic north, which is what your compass points to, and true north, the actual North Pole, well, they're not always perfectly aligned.
Really? I never knew that.
It's called magnetic declination, this difference between the two, and it changes depending on where you are on Earth.
So the Bermuda Triangle isn't unique in that sense. But wouldn't those seasoned navigators, especially back in the day, wouldn't they have known about this?
You'd think so, right? But everyone makes mistakes, even experienced navigators. Relying solely on a compass without accounting for those variations can lead you astray. Add in factors like poor visibility, equipment malfunction, maybe even a bit of human error, and it's not hard to see how a ship or a plane could end up way off course.
It's a good reminder that we're all human, prone to errors and judgment, even with the best of intentions. But let's be honest, there are even more, let's call them creative theories out there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And some of them are pretty wild. One theory that's gained traction is the idea of underwater methane eruptions.
Okay, hold on. Underwater methane eruptions. That sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie.
It does, doesn't it? But there's actual science behind it. Imagine this. Deep beneath the ocean floor, there are these large deposits of something called methane hydrates. It's basically methane gas trapped in this ice-like structure. And it's found in various places, including the Bermuda Triangle.
Okay, I'm with you so far. What happens when these methane hydrates decide to, erupt?
Well, when that happens, it's called a mud volcano. And it can release huge amounts of methane gas, creating areas of frothy water. Basically, it messes with the water's ability to support weight.
So a ship could be sailing along, and suddenly the water beneath it just can't hold it up anymore.
Exactly. It'd be like pulling the rug out from under the ship, causing it to sink incredibly fast without much warning at all.
That's both fascinating and terrifying. But is there any evidence that this has actually happened in the Triangle?
That's the tricky part. While it's a plausible theory, there's no concrete proof linking methane eruptions to any specific disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle.
So another possible explanation, but the mystery continues. Okay, we've talked about currents, weather, compasses, even exploding methane. But what about the really out there explanations? The ones that involve underwater alien bases, time portals, that sort of thing.
Yes, those. We can't talk about the Bermuda Triangle without at least acknowledging the more, shall we say, unconventional theories, can't we?
It wouldn't be a proper deep dive without them. Hit me with some of those wild theories.
Well, some people point to the lost city of Atlantis. They believe its advanced technology is somehow responsible for the disappearances.
You mean like some kind of ancient underwater force field zapping ships and planes out of existence?
Exactly. Then there's the always popular UFO theory, where extraterrestrials are abducting vessels and their passengers for their own mysterious reasons.
Maybe they're collecting specimens for an intergalactic zoo. Who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah.
And of course, we can't forget about the theories involving time warps and portals to other dimensions. The Bermuda Triangle has become this breeding ground for all sorts of wild ideas.
It's amazing how our imaginations run wild when faced with the unknown. But why the Bermuda Triangle? Why not, say, a random patch of the Pacific Ocean?
I think it boils down to a few things. First, there's the ocean itself. It's this vast, dark, mysterious realm. We can map its surface, send probes to its depths, but there's still so much we don't know about it.
Like that saying, we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about the depths of our own ocean.
Exactly. And when something disappears at sea, there's often very little physical evidence to go on. No wreckage, no distress signals, nothing. That lack of closure can be incredibly unsettling. It leaves us with these unanswered questions. And our brains, being wired to seek patterns and create narratives, well, we try to fill in the blanks.
So in the absence of a clear explanation, our imaginations go into overdrive. We try to make sense of the chaos, even if it means inventing explanations that aren't, well, entirely based in reality.
Precisely. And let's be honest, sometimes a good story, even if it's a little out there, is more appealing than a simple logical explanation. The idea of the Bermuda Triangle being this mysterious, dangerous place, a place where the impossible happens, is just more exciting than chalking it up to bad weather or human error. But the question remains, is there truly anything unusual about the Bermuda Triangle? Or are we, as humans, just drawn to the allure of the unknown?
Well, after going through all of these theories, from the scientific to the, well, let's just say imaginative, I'm starting to think that maybe the real mystery isn't what's happening in the Bermuda Triangle, but why we're so captivated by it.
That's an interesting thought, isn't it? Maybe the real mystery of the Bermuda Triangle lies not at the bottom of the ocean, but within ourselves.
So we've journeyed to this realm of the unexplained, the Bermuda Triangle. We've explored the science, the speculation, even those far-out theories. But where do we land after all that? What's the takeaway?
I think the most important thing we've learned is the value of critical thinking. When we encounter something unusual or unexplained, something like the Bermuda Triangle, it's essential to approach it with a healthy dose of skepticism, right?
Don't just accept everything at face value. Question those assumptions. Dig a little deeper.
Exactly. We need to look for evidence from reliable sources, consider alternative explanations. That's how we separate fact from fiction.
The Bermuda Triangle is a prime example of how easily misinformation can spread. It's a good reminder to be discerning, to check those sources, especially in today's world of instant information.
We've got to be those savvy consumers of information, right?
Exactly. But I also think there's something to be said for embracing the unknown. It's okay to acknowledge that there are things we don't fully understand. The world is full of mysteries, and that's part of what makes it so fascinating.
Absolutely. Curiosity is a powerful tool. The Bermuda Triangle, for all its mystery, reminds us that there's always something more to learn, something more to explore.
Well said. So, as we conclude our deep dive into the Bermuda Triangle, I hope our listeners will walk away with that sense of wonder and a healthy dose of skepticism.
That's the spirit. Keep those critical thinking skills sharp, folks.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to question, to explore those different perspectives, and never lose that sense of curiosity about the world around us. And on that note, we've reached the end of our journey into the Bermuda Triangle. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep learning.